That was, again, supposed to be like an iconic family shot, and the lightphone kind of messed it up. Look at this weird artifacting going on here. What the heck is that? I've been using the lightphone 3 as a camera for the last 2 weeks, and in this video, I'm going to only talk about the camera in the lightphone 3. This was all just the first day that I got it, so I was just snapping photos. One of the things that stands out to me, though, about the lightphone is its use of color. I do really love how skin tones look on here, and I'm not going to show you these because if you saw my previous review, you already saw them, but I mean, this is pretty good. We did have pizza, and the back of my yard is pretty messy, so I apologize for that in advance. I went on vacation with my family, and started using the lightphone right away. So let's go ahead and look at that. This is my dad with my son. You can see my son here playing Battleship. You can see my wife looking very tired because it's been a long couple of weeks with the kids. Yeah! So one of the things that stands out to me when I just watched this clip quickly, other than the fact that my kids are adorable as heck, is the audio is really surprisingly good for the video portion, even though I did talk about how the video, in my opinion, isn't as good as the photo. You having fun?
That is a lot of dandelions.
Oh, yeah. It's also really shaky and vibration prone. I'm so used to iPhones having just incredible stabilization, but the fact that this dumb phone has video that is this good, and it'll only get better with firmware updates, as lightphone is really good at doing, I think it's a fair start. It's not ideal, but the thing that I really wanted to showcase here is the overall color science and kind of vibe that lightphone is giving me with photography here. This is just at a little Dollar Tree at the place that we were staying, kind of in the mountains. You also get autofocus in photography. I'm not sure how the focus works in video. I noticed that it wasn't tracking or focusing on objects when I was in video, so I'm curious if it's just locking focus once you hit record. But I am able to get pretty close-up shots here, and you can see there's some natural bokeh going on. This is a 50 megapixel sensor that's being binned down to 12 megapixels. It's essentially acting like a larger sensor. It's taking multiple pixels and creating them into one. This is a good side-by-side, actually. This was taken on the main camera, and then this was taken on the selfie camera. So you can really see a big difference there when I zoom in. There's some nice sharpness on, you know, the areas that I want to be sharp, obviously. The hair is sharp, and then the bokeh behind it is pretty nice. I mean, if we were getting images like this back in the day, you know, a couple years ago on even iPhones, I'd be happy. And then this is with the selfie camera. I noticed that a lot of times with the selfie shot, everything was a little bit darker. And that's probably just because they're favoring less ISO noise in the image to give it a decent, overall noise performance here. You can see definitely a huge difference between those two. Main camera, selfie camera. This is the main camera. And you'll see this a lot, especially for indoor shots. Things are blurry. I mean, you know, she's not in perfect focus here. I would love to see the autofocus get better, as well as if there's any way to favor a faster shutter speed to freeze action. You might have seen that in one of the previous shots here. Even though we are indoors, we have decent lighting, but because he's moving and he's a kid, they're letting more light in by opening the shutter longer, but that's causing blur to happen quite a bit. I see it again here. There's also no stabilization. I'm used to IBIS, in-body image stabilization, which is in cameras like what I have here. This is a Lumix S9 photography camera. The sensor is basically stabilizing itself. So if my hand moves slightly when I'm taking the shot, the sensor is actually stabilized. And they even have a mechanism in the iPhone doing the same thing. I guess I've just gotten used to that. And the lightphone 3 does not have that. Any little shutter shock is what we used to call it back in the day. Any shutter shock you're getting from pushing the camera icon, you're gonna get that blur. And I think that is something that should be addressed with software. The only way, I repeat, the only way to take a photo is by pushing the photo button. Now, it's cool that this camera has a photo button. Now right here on top of the lightphone is the shutter icon. That is the only way to take pictures at the moment. So I can obviously go to the app here. I can tap camera, and then that opens up the camera. There's also no rotation of this UI. So if I'm taking a vertical shot, I just see photo sideways like that. but there's no shutter icon on the screen, and I would really like for there to just be a big circle in the middle, just like an iPhone, that is a software shutter. That's the only way to take a photo, is by pushing this button. And watch how long it takes, by the way, too. So I'm pushing it down, it's focusing, holding. Now it took it. So when I started saying the word holding, that's when I literally push the button. That's how long it takes. So there's two issues already for me. I want this UI to flip when I go from vertical to horizontal. I don't know if that's possible. If there's not an accelerometer in here, then that's not going to be possible. I hate to say it, but I do think most people probably shoot photos on their phones vertically. So if I were to default to one option, I would probably still put it vertically, even though you've got the shutter icon here. And then give me a button with software to take photos, because then I don't have to deal with the shutter shock. This is with the main camera shooting at ISO 100. If I go to the other one, this is, that's ISO 1500. ISO 260 on the selfie shot here. ISO 1800. Wow. So that's cranking quite a bit. And yet it's still pretty clean. I'm actually really impressed by that. 4.9 megapixels. These are all JPEGs. They don't use the HEIF codec. You can see, again, this nice, it was a cloudy day. Oops. It was a cloudy day here. And you can see when I zoom in, the resolution is at ISO 100. So in theory, this should be one of the sharper shots, because we're at 1/500th of a second. So that would freeze the frame quite a bit. Now, I took this photo because I also took it with an iPhone. And you can see when I compare it to the iPhone, I'm standing in the exact same place. The iPhone, I think, is now shooting at 24 millimeter equivalent. That shows you the difference. But I'm not gonna lie, this really does give us that Instagram Gen Z point and shoot vibe. You know, the colors are really filmic. The highlights are certainly being blown out here, but it does have kind of a look to it. Again, just more examples of great color. I just really loved all the color popping here. You can see again, like this is the sharp part of the image. And then behind here is the bokeh. So this is a pretty high ISO again. ISO 1341 at 1/120th of a second. Interesting. So that's a sharp image. Basically, the higher the number, the faster the shutter slap is on the camera. So again, 1/120th. Yep. So that's 1/40th of a second. 1/40th of a second, and a high ISO. Same for this shot. No, that's 1/120th of a second. So that's a high shutter speed and a crazy high ISO. What are they doing to determine these numbers? I can't control any settings. I mean, look at how high the ISO is here. My wife's face is completely just lost in the grain and the noise reduction of a high ISO. And I don't think the shutter speed needed to be that high. So that's interesting. If you didn't know, mobile phones usually don't have adjustable apertures. So they adjust the exposure by cranking the ISO if it's dark, or cranking the shutter speed if it's really bright. But they're cranking both here, which is odd. Then we went to a mini golf course. This is a picture taken on the lightphone, and then this is actually taken on this camera. So you can see the difference between a real camera and the lightphone camera. Of course, a real camera is going to blow it out of the water with the bokeh, the sharpness, the overall image quality. And I'd say if you really truly care about quality images, you should always carry a real camera around with you. It's my son. He got a hole-in-one that day too, which was super fun. Yeah, there it is. So again, I can see a little bit of blur on his face. This should be a sharp image. If I was taking this on an iPhone, this would be sharp. This looks blurry. Why is that? Let's go to the information. We're at ISO 441 and 1/120th of a second. A shutter speed that's that fast should be fast enough to freeze the frame. So that tells me then again that this did not focus properly. The camera did not focus on the subject. If you look at this image, there's, oh, look at the seat in the back. Is that what's actually in focus? It looks like it. If you look at that chair back there. Let's look at the settings. ISO 144, fantastic. You want the lowest ISO possible on these types of cameras because the lower it is, the less noise you're gonna get, the crisper the image is gonna look. This is a winner in my book. You know, he's nice and sharp in the frame. You've actually got a little bit of natural bokeh and separation in the background. I just love the vibes that this thing is giving. I don't know if that's really the right term, but it's hard to describe. There is a color tone to the lightphone that I don't see on an iPhone. An iPhone looks a little bit over-processed by default. I get around that by shooting in RAW mode, the ProRAW mode, and that sort of removes that artificial over-processed look to my images, and it's insanely sharp. Again, here's another one. My other son, of course, his older brother, was goofing around, put his hand right there. But it's got some pleasing bokeh going on in the background with the trees. Again, my son's face is nice and sharp. And the color is good. It's a little overexposed, but that's okay. I could fix that in post-production if needed. Here's a shot of my oldest. This one's really sharp. Look at that. The eyes, the hair, sharp, background, blur, color, good. 1/20th of a second, ISO 218, so it's actually a little higher than what we were getting on the other side there. But that's an overall good shot. I'd be happy to print that up. That's a good shot of my son. Shot of my wife, similar as before. We are starting to see some issues here with overexposure, and that area on her cheek is gone. So I can't pull that back. I'd have to use generative fill in Photoshop, which I can do. Overall, this image is too bright. The only adjustment that you actually get with the lightphone is here. I get an exposure compensation dial when I push the little sun icon right here. And so that's cool. If I wanted to get this shot correct, I should have opened up the exposure compensation and dialed it down a little bit, but I don't get manual controls at all. I can turn on a flash. There's an auto and on. To switch to selfie mode, you just push this button and go to selfie, and then now I'm taking a selfie shot. Same for video. I push that button, go to video. Now I'm filming video. I was worried that this happened when I took this. My son was acting goofy, gave me a goofy face. 1/120th of a second, so it should be sharp, but you can see that I think this boy on the left was moving, so he's a little blurry, but then he's pretty sharp. But again, the background seems to be more in focus than the foreground, so there was a focus issue there. This one's totally out. The stem is in focus and the flower is not. I was obviously trying to focus on the flower. This one is surprisingly good for an indoor shot. Obviously, my wife probably wouldn't be happy showing you guys this picture because she looks so tired here. This is the life of a mother of 3. This one's interesting. It was shot at 1/30th of a second, which is really slow. You have a lot of room for things to be out of focus with either shutter slap or just any movement from her. At 1,500, though, it still looks pretty clean. And I guess just because she sat so still, we have a nice, overall frame, and I'm happy with the colors, the exposure. Again, that's kind of the main thing that I keep coming back to here, is that I am happy with the colors I'm seeing. Here's some more outdoor stuff. You can see the dynamic range is not great, but what do you expect? I would rather it be more natural like this and let things blow out than the crazy, ridiculous HDR effect that we see on iPhones and most modern phones. I also like the fact that they're not afraid to let things have contrast and have true blacks. Again, when you look at modern smartphones, they kind of don't let things that are black be black. Or things that are in shadow live in the shadow. They literally just boost everything up like crazy, and it just doesn't look natural. So I am a huge fan of what I'm seeing here. This just looks like a normal picture that you would take on a normal camera. This one's obviously blown out because we have the sun directly behind him, but it is an interesting experiment to see how it handles that. It handled it like I would expect. We do have a little bit of a lens flare, which is kind of cool, but you gotta be careful with backlight like that. This is the same location as this one, except now you're not getting that flare. A lot of contrast going on here, and not a lot of room to play around. You know, her pants here, if I were to boost that up, see, I'm trying to crank the shadows up, and her pants are kind of crushed. So I can't really bring that out very much. See? So what you see is what you get, basically. This is a good frame. Again, thinking about the fact that, you know, behind him, everything's blown out, but what I'm trying to expose for got exposed properly. Ooh, I do see some Moiré. Moiré and aliasing right there. So on that seatbelt, I'm seeing those patterns. So be aware of that. That's the first time I've noticed it on this camera, but Moiré and aliasing is something that you see with older cameras, especially for video. We were dealing with it a lot at the time with HDSLRs back in the day, like the 5D Mark II. Again, I should have adjusted the exposure compensation because, as you can see, a lot of this image is blown out. But again, what I love is that this is just simply the image. You know, you're seeing what the sensor is seeing. They're not doing all this artificial processing on it. It is blown out, but kind of cool image though. There you go. That one's a little better exposed, but still seeing some blown out spots on the cheeks. So it'd be nice if maybe there were some tools to explain to us our exposure read, whether there was like a histogram or some sort of meter that told me that I was overexposing. That way I could bring it down, because obviously in this moment I thought it looked fine on the camera, but the reality is that their faces are overexposed, and now that image is not repairable other than doing some AI tricks. Here's a food photography shot. I'm not much of a food vlogger, but we got some apples there. Again, I just want to get wide shots showing the contrast, overall sharpness of things. You can see a lot of those details in the trees look good. The highlights are totally blown out up here, but that's fine by me. I'm not seeing any lens aberrations or chromatic aberrations on the lens. So this is a backlit selfie shot. Look at this weird artifacting going on here. What the heck is that? Joe and the lightphone team, what are we seeing here? Holy cow, I did not notice this on the phone at all. So what this looks like to me is some digital HDR processing happening. This should not be a thing. So what it's doing is it's exposing for the shadows, exposing for the midtones and the highlights, and blending them together somehow. But that's a weird effect. I haven't seen that on the main camera yet at all. It's just on the selfie camera. Now this is me being lit by the sun, so this is me turning a full 180 degrees, and you can see how much better that looks. So this is on the selfie camera. ISO 100. Pretty sharp. Looks good. But yeah, if I was taking an important selfie with like a, you know, say you come across a celebrity or something, I would actually not use the selfie camera. If you can use the main camera as a selfie, then that's what I would do. Forget the selfie shot. I'm in camera mode. I'm holding it at an arm's length, and I mean I'm holding it, got it. I feel a little vibration when I pull the shutter, so I know I took it. You can always just quickly glance at it. You know, you just hit the album. But yeah, I am seeing now that I know what to look for. I am seeing some overexposure just on my little screen here of my hand. So this is a picture taken at 4000 ISO. I'm not sure if we've seen anything that high yet. You know, when you look at the details, there's definitely some grain. The lightphone is just using camera in the traditional sense, I feel like. It's not doing a lot of processing other than whatever they're doing with the selfie camera. Most modern phones now have these low light modes that open the shutter up longer but use AI to like stabilize it and sharpen it. You're just going to get a so much better shot on an iPhone than this. The fact that you can have a dumb phone with a camera on it like this, the original lightphone didn't have any camera at all. I mean, I would take that over not having it. So this is main camera, this is selfie camera. This is also selfie camera. So I know my family was kind of counting on me for having this selfie shot here. So I'm gonna have to probably fix this with a little bit of upscaling and AI. Maybe I could walk you guys through that in a future video if you're interested. I am a thumbnail designer by trade, And there's some really cool tools out there. So maybe I'll make a future video about that. But yeah, that selfie shot, I should have just flipped on the normal mode and done that instead, because I'm losing a lot of detail here and my mom is totally soft there. But I am happy with the colors, and it does capture the moment. It really does. This should be a great shot, but he's out of focus. Look, the trees are in focus and he's not. So there's no face tracking on the focus mode. It's simply this focus box that's just in the middle. So I hold the button down halfway, it focuses on me, then I hold, and take it. Again, whenever I say the word hold, that's when I start pushing. That's how long it takes to take a photo. This one turned out good. He's sharp. Eyeball is sharp. Hair, face, perfect. Perfect shot, nice bokeh, good lighting. Let's see, ISO 100? 150. 1/60th of a second. Nice. It's a fairly low shutter speed, and yet it's still sharp. Here's a video shot. So that was me also trying my darndest to hold it as still as possible, and yet we still see a ton of shake. I wonder if they're going to add any electronic stabilization. There's no optical stabilization at all on the lens, so that's an issue. Unless you have a tripod, you're going to be getting a lot of shaky footage. The detail here is just not there. The photos look so much better than the video. I would just stay away from video with the exception of having it for an emergency. In fact, when I emailed Joe, he said that Joe's the CEO of the company. He said that they were even considering not having video at all until somebody suggested, well, if I get pulled over by an officer, I want to be able to record the interaction with video for legal purposes. And so they added it because of that. And overall, that is the point of lightphone, is that your phone is a utility device. It's not an entertainment device. It's not even a photography device. We're just kind of in a culture where camera phones are such a huge part of the buying decision of a phone. I wish they put a little bit more emphasis on the camera, but I mean, look at that difference. This is now the still image of that same environment. It's less cropped, for one thing. And then the second is we're getting so much more detail in here. It's probably high ISO. It's kind of a dark. No, it's not. 144 because it's very noisy, it feels like. This is a really cool shot of this area. Again, just a ton of shaking. This was supposed to be like a really impactful and good picture of my kids, and I'm not happy with the exposure levels. Again, I wish I knew that. As I was there, I should have looked at my images on my laptop on my trip. I just assumed that it would be focusing decently and getting exposure, but I'm blowing out a lot of these areas, and I'm not happy about that.
I don't want to jump though.
It's cool how the stereo mics work. They do work really well, because as I panned my camera over, if you're listening with headphones, you can hear how the audio does shift to the right side of your ear because it's this really interesting stereo mic. But because of the lack of stabilization, every little micro jitter of my hand is causing shake, and that's an issue. I really wish they would have a little bit of stabilization on this. I guess you could, if you really wanted to use a gimbal with this, but that just really defeats the purpose. And if you're going to all that trouble, you might as well use a real camera. So I took a picture here, nice and close up. This is me taking a photo of the moss as close as I could. So the fact that the photography mode allows for such a close focusing is really interesting to me. So that's awesome. That the tree here is in focus, but my son is not. You know, that stump isn't too far away from him, and yet because that was what was in focus, he's out of focus. So that focus plane, you know, you gotta be careful about that. If you're getting a line of people and trying to take a photo, you need to really line them up in the same line, or some of them might be out of focus. That was, again, supposed to be like an iconic family shot, and the light phone kind of messed it up. They are totally soft and out of focus. I would just say, if you're a family man like myself, and I want to use this as my main device when I'm with my kids because I want to be a good dad and I don't want to be just hooked to my smartphone all the time. That's why I got this. For a moment like this, I didn't take this on my phone or my camera. So this is the only shot I have of this moment. I remember this day. We ended it at, one of my favorite little restaurants. I would have loved for them to be sharp. And I know for a fact that I focused on them first and then I repositioned. So my guess is that when I'm repositioning the phone, that it's like focusing on whatever's in the middle. Juxtapose that to this image looks good. My son is sharp and in focus. The lighting is good. It's not blowing out. I could definitely boost the exposure here if I needed to. But what I'm getting at is, I don't know if I can trust this device for those moments that are just lifelong, important moments for me, because they're only this age once. If lightphone just works on the autofocus and makes it more reliable, I would be okay with using this as my only device out and about with my family. Now, I'm probably not your typical consumer of this because I also am a photography nerd. So for me, putting this around my neck isn't the end of the world. And then carrying a light phone in my pocket instead of my iPhone to disconnect me from the chaos of my life with a smartphone and Discord and emails and everything. But if you were hoping to see that the light phone would be like this unbelievably amazing camera that makes you want to throw away your iPhone or throw away your Samsung or Google Pixel and go all in on the light phone, that's not what it is. But what it is a cool, vibey camera for those niche creators out there who, typically the Gen Z YouTubers and Instagram influencers who want that kind of point and shoot aesthetic, but could benefit from it being also a phone. This could end up being your only device if you really like that aesthetic. It's a very small niche of people, by the way. And if you're that type of person, you might as well just carry around one of those old Canon PowerShot point and shoots in your pocket and an iPhone anyways, and you're going to get better results with the Canon PowerShot too, to be honest. Or if you're the type of person who just really is a minimalist through and through, maybe you don't have kids, so it's not as important to you as it is to me, and you do see the camera tool as a nice to have feature, but it's really there as a tool and not, a home documentation device, then this is still, a great option. Watch my review if you haven't already. I'm David Altizer. This is Ultra Maze. See you later.